It's time to go over our top 10 tight ends of week 2. We're getting it right in here with Isaiah Likely, who really set the NFL up by storm, right? Over 100 yards receiving. A lot of people didn't think he could do what he was doing. He showed very good athleticism, be able to high point the football, catch, make some moves, and even score those touchdowns. And even in the offseason, they said that Isaiah Likely was going to be more involved into this offense. And boy, was he ever involved, really blowing out Mark Andrews' production. Now, Mark Andrews was on the field more than Isaiah Likely, but he just wasn't targeted like Likely was. So I think that may come down just a little bit. I think Mark Andrews is going to get more involved as he really recovers back from the injury that he had last season. And Likely obviously is going to regress. I don't think he's going to do this week in and week out. They've got other options like Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers to get involved, but don't get it twisted. I've got Isaiah Likely. He is a must start. You can't put him on your bench after what he was able to do in week 1, going against a Raiders defense that ranks 18th against opposing tight ends. He should see a more realistic target share than what he did last week. Like I said, I think he'll still be productive, still be a top 10 tight end for you. Just don't expect him to have the number 1 overall, number 2, or number 3 overall tight end week this week. It's not going to happen. If anything, Mark Andrews will really get involved this week as well, and they're going to kind of share a little bit of that workload, and both of them be nice, good tight ends for you this week. So moving here at number 9, we're going over Kyle Pitts, right? So a lot of people had some information to get with Kyle Pitts and thinking that he was going to do a little bit better than what, right? This is Kyle Pitts' year, and while he had, a touchdown that really saved himself last week, other than that touchdown that he had, really didn't do anything for him, right? Kyle Pitts going against a defense against the Eagles right here that ranks 16th against opposing tight ends, right? And like I was saying earlier, man, that tight end or that touchdown saved Pitts' week 1 performance, right? If it wasn't for this touchdown that he had, a lot of people are going to be just disappointed with what Pitts was able to give you. I think the offense in total from Kirk Cousins just wasn't what we wanted to see, right? Drake London didn't have a very great game. I see Kirk Cousins going out there and wanting to really sling the football. Is his Achilles injury that he suffered last season affecting him? We don't know. We're going to have to see week 2, see what comes along against this Eagles defense that isn't the easiest to throw against. We're going to have to see how Kirk Cousins how he does in week 2, guys. So move right along here at number 8. We're going over the other Ravens tight end. We're going with Mark Andrews. He was very, very disappointing last week. We saw Isaiah Likely really steal the show from Mark Andrews, and he was kind of an afterthought, right? I had Mark Andrews up there as one of my top elite tight ends of the week. I think that he had a plethora of options just to be the number 1 overall tight end for the season, and he just kind of laid a big old stinker on us. But I think he's going to get more involved. We're going to see what happens. He's taking on a Raiders defense right now that ranks 18th against opposing tight ends. And like I said, he will not just sit back and let Likely steal the show from him. I think Mark Andrews is a good tight end. He's going to show you guys that he needs to be up there. He needs to be one of the guys. He can produce at a high level. I think him and Lamar Jackson have a very good connection. We just saw Isaiah Likely and we're like, whoa, there's another receiving option in Baltimore. But I do like Mark Andrews. I think he's going to have a good week against a Raiders team that's really not going to be able to slow down any of these tight ends. I think the Ravens are going to be able to do whatever they want. Mark Andrews should have himself a nice week here in week 2. Move right along here at number 7. We're going Brock Bowers. We saw him really involved, right, in this very first week. I think Gardner Minshew was really looking for him and Devontae Adams quite a bit. I think that Brock Bowers, we see the talent that he has. We see why he was so highly touted and drafted so high in the draft. He could produce at a high level for you as well. I think people are getting paid their dividends for taking Brock Bowers in their fantasy drafts. I think he's taking on a Ravens defense that ranks 27th against opposing tight ends, and he should be in a negative game script pretty much all game long. They're going to be losing, right? So they're going to be throwing the football a lot. When you're in a negative game script, you get more opportunities to score fantasy football points, and that's what we like from the fantasy football world. So look at Brock Bowers being another top tight end this week. I love what I see from him. I think he's solid for week 2. You won't be disappointed if you have Brock Bowers on your team, guys. Moving right along here at number 6, we're going Evan Ingram, another tight end that I was like, man, this is really, really disappointing. I think most of the top 10 tight ends that I had last week was a freaking utter disappointment. It is what it is. I think everybody across the fantasy football world is disappointed with what happened at the tight end position, but I still have Evan Ingram here, right? I'm not going too crazy over week 1 and what happened. I still think Evan Ingram is a big part of this offense. I think you're going to see that here against the Browns defense, who I think they can exploit a little bit here at the tight end position. They're taking on a Browns defense right now, ranks 10th against opposing tight ends. He should receive receive the target share that we're all used to. He only had a 19% target share in week 1. That is not going to hold up. He likes to have tons of targets. He's used to being the number 1 targeted tight end last season. It's going to kind of go back to that. Look for week 2. Going to get back on track. Again, don't panic just because you see a lot of this stuff happening in week 1. Don't worry. It's only 1 week. We got a long fantasy season ahead of us. Evan Ingram should be a big part of your plans starting here in week 2. Moving right along here at my top 5. At number 5, we're going George Kittle, another tight end who I think is the category of a boom or bust type of player. And again, with Christian McCaffrey not in there, I think the passing game is just kind of got to get a little bit more woken up and not going too much to the running back position, but more to the weapons that he has on the outside and that tight end position in George Kittle. We see George Kittle taking on a Vikings defense that ranks 11th against opposing tight ends. Like I was mentioning before, George Kittle's more of a boom or bust player. He's either going to have a really, really good game or he's going to have a really kind of cockadoodle poopy game. There's not really many games he has anything in between. I think he has more boom games than bust games. He is a top tight end for you each and every single week. And week 2 is not going to be any different. Put George Kittle in your lineup and be happy that you have him. Coming here at number 4, we've got Dalton Kincaid. And just like we were kind of saying earlier, I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be a major benefactor for the Bills and moving forward. We saw Keon Coleman having the most receptions out of any wide receiver on that offense. And I think that Dalton Kincaid is going to end up even having more increased workload. We're going to see that here starting in week 2 going against a Dolphins team that is going to be throwing out some fireworks. We see the Dolphins that are currently ranked number 4 against opposing tight ends. He's going to need them to do well, right? The Bills need him to be able to keep pace with the Dolphins and the explosive work that they do. Dalton Kincaid's a good pass receiving tight end, and I think Josh Allen really has built a solid rapport with him. Look for him to have even more of a monster game. I think he has a boom game this week against a Dolphins team on Thursday Night Football. Can't wait to see that when he does, guys. Moving right along here at number 3, we're going with Trey McBride. McBride, we see that he was the main benefactor here, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. a little bit slow coming out of the gate. I know it's his first NFL game. Maybe the jitters got to him a little bit, but we saw Kyler Murray really target Trey McBride and be the main guy and focal point on this offense. Will that shift once Marvin Harrison starts getting up to speed? Possibility, but as of right now, Trey McBride is still a stud in the making. He is the guy and the go-to guy at the tight end position, getting plenty of targets for you, getting plenty of fantasy work for you, and I love him this week against a Rams team that is going to be a nice closer game, and they're going to need everything they can just to keep pace with this Rams offense. Right now, the Rams offense ranks 24th against opposing tight ends. He's still the main focal point. Like I said, even with Marvin Harrison on the field, they are still targeting Trey McBride quite enough to make sure he is fantasy relevant for you again this week in a nice close matchup that I believe at least close for a little while until the Rams probably pull away from this. But Trey McBride will be a big part of this offense if they're going to keep things close. Coming here at number 2, I've got to go back to Travis Kelce, and I know people are really disappointed with the week 1 performance and what happened with Travis Kelce, but if you know anything about Travis Kelce and him being at the top of the food chain for so long, you know Travis Kelce is going to get his get back. You know what I mean? So this week could be his get back week against a Bengals team that is not going to stop this guy. There's nothing they can do to stop Travis Kelce. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to say, hey man, sorry buddy for not letting you dominate in week 1. Let's go ahead and let you dominate in week 2. I think it goes against the Bengals defense right here, ranked currently at 22nd against opposing wide receivers. Just look for Kelce, like I was saying earlier, to get a much larger target share than what he did last week. We saw most of the target share from Patrick Mahomes was going to Rashee Rice. I think that shifts just a little bit, drops it down from Rashee Rice and goes a little bit more to Travis Kelce. And because they're buddies, right? I mean, what's Taylor Swift going to do about this, right? He wants to get to the football. Patrick Mahomes wants to get to the football. I think they want to make Taylor Swift happy. I think it all becomes one big happy family. Travis Kelce starts to dominate here in week 2, guys. And then moving right along at our number 1 guy, of course, Sam Laporta over there with the Detroit Lions. He's a big part of it, right? I think there was a disappointment overall for this offense with Jared Goff, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. But I think this week they right the ship, and Jared Goff really has a dominant game. It's going to be a close game against the Buccaneers, and I think Jared Goff's going to go out there and go absolutely nuclear. Amon-Ra, St. Brown's going to have a big game. Sam Laporta's going to catch himself a touchdown. I like Sam Laporta in week 2 here, going against the Buccaneers defense that currently ranks 14th against opposing tight ends. I think he should be, kind of like a back and forth type of matchup. This is something that it's going to be, not a blowout. There's going to be plenty of opportunities here for people to succeed, people to absolutely dominate. I think Sam Laporta is the #1 tight end for week 2, guys. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. That is my top 10 tight ends for week 2, guys. We're putting out multiple videos each and every week to help you best dominate your fantasy football leagues and help you ultimately just hoist up a trophy. What do you guys think about my top 10? Do you guys have Isaiah Likely higher than number 10 in your rankings? Leave a comment down below. I currently have Mark Andrews above Isaiah Likely, guys. It is what it is, but I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.